So in a previous video I did of my LS Swap 1982 K10, we noticed that the fuel system required some revisions. So today I wanted to talk about the engine side of this fuel system that I decided to put together, namely the fuel rails, the injectors, and the fittings I used to make it work. So let's talk about the part numbers. So let's start out by talking about the fuel rails that I chose. I decided on the Holley EFI LS fuel rail kit, part number HLY-534-245. $260, but it comes with everything. The fittings, the crossover tube to make it all work, and like 4 or 5 different sets of brackets so that you can use it on different intake manifolds. I just wanted a quick solution, so that's what I got. I know there are other kits out there that are cheaper, but I didn't feel like, hunting for the different fittings and brackets to make it work. So it's a simple solution, and it works okay on my stock truck intake manifold. So for injectors, I decided on the Holley Terminator X 42-pound injectors, part number HLY-522-428X. They give me a little room to grow, and on Holley's website, I'll put it up right now on the screen. Also, the link will be in the description. But they came out with a data table that has the flow rate for the injectors, the minimum opening times, and all the injector off times for each voltage increment. So you can punch that info into your Terminator X software pretty easy. So one thing to keep in mind though, with this fuel rail that I decided on, if you choose an injector that's shorter than the stock ones, you're gonna have to adjust the fuel rail brackets. For me, since it's the truck intake manifold, I had to lengthen it in the middle here so that I can reach up on that mounting location. Since the injector is shorter, the fuel rail sits down lower, and so these Terminator X injectors are all pretty stubby. So just keep that in mind if you decide on this fuel rail and get injectors that are pretty short and stubby. You're gonna have to adjust your brackets a little bit, which isn't a big deal for me because I had a welder and it took me like 20 minutes to get it all done. Or you can use, injector spacers. I'm sure they're fine. I'm just not a fan because it just seems like another place where it can leak. I'm not superstitious, just a little stitious, so that's why I decided to adjust the bracket. So like I mentioned before, this fuel rail kit's gonna come with all the fittings that you need to make it work. I just got a couple of extra ones. I got a 6AN cap to go on the back just because my fuel pressure regulator is by my fuel tank. And I also got the 6AN male to female adapter port for the 5-volt 100 psi pressure transducer so that I could have fuel rail data on my Terminator X. You don't have to do that. It's just that connector on the harness is there, so you might as well use it so that you can know if you're leaning out, why you're leaning out. And also it's good to know that you have consistent fuel pressure and you can adjust it if you need to. So now that we've talked about all these parts, let's go and install them, and I'll mention any other minute details that I might have forgotten. And thanks to some YouTube magic, she is installed and she's freaking mint button. Super sleek and discreet too. So whether or not you want your crossover tube to go above or below your throttle body is up to you. But according to Holley's installation instructions, you just got to make sure that you don't have any drastic angles that's going to cause the tube to kink. So when I bought this Terminator X Max, I didn't know what injectors I was going to run yet, so I just bought the one with EV1 style injector connectors, part number 550-916, because I knew that they made it injector connector adapters from EV1 to just about any style adapter. That's what I got. I got these stubby EV1 to US car adapters, and they're pretty sleek, you can barely notice them. So one thing that was kind of annoying is that neither the injectors or the fuel rail kit came with injector clips. So you can just imagine all of your parts coming in the mail and then realizing that you don't have friggin' injector clips and having to wait a week and a half for those to come in the mail. That'll start heart palpitations in some folks. Luckily I was able to use the ones off of the stock fuel rail that I took off of this intake manifold, but it's just something for you to think about. So regarding the fuel pressure transducer, I put it on the front passenger side because there's no room between the back of the fuel rail and the firewall, which reminds me you gotta remove that random stock bracket on the back of the head with preferably a 15 mil ratchet wrench combination because it's hard to get to. Don't ask me why I swapped the motor with it still installed. You can't put it on the front driver's side because there's no room between that 90-degree fitting and the stock alternator location. And I use an extension cable so that I can reach the connector on the harness. So I used a 90-degree fitting included in the kit to connect the fuel rails to the fuel line. And a little tip to get braided steel lines into those fittings easy is to wrap it once with freezer tape, works best, and then cut it along the middle with a fresh set of bolt cutters, and then straighten out those edges with some needle nose pliers. That'll make it easy for you to put it into the female end of the fitting. And then take the male end, lube it up really good with some oil, spin it on until you can't anymore, and then finish it off by securing it in a vise, and you'll tighten it till the base of the male fitting is almost at the bottom. And just like that, the engine side of this fuel system will support tons of power. Now, this video isn't sponsored by Holley Performance by any means, but if they reached out to me asking if I wanted to run a channel to convince folks to purchase their products, I would say sign me right up, because Holley Performance is a name that I'll stand behind any day. Well, folks, if you've made it to the end of this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing this video with friends that you know are trying to put a fuel system together on their swap. Now, I've got other videos of me taking the truck bed off of this thing to install a Suburban style fuel tank with an upgraded fuel pump, so if you guys are interested in that, please stick around. And I'd say that this video is officially too long, so with that being said, I'm Tall Redhead Kid, and I will see you guys next time.